verb to hold in French. And people use some pretty wacky material to make the balls with. Cork, wool, chalk, animal fur, and even human hair. A few centuries on, Germany got dead into the tennis too, but wanted to make a few modifications to the ball to make it a bit more effective. Around this time, an American featured in Melton Mowbray. That's right, the home of the pork pie. One problem, the balls kept on breaking on impacts with the racket. The call of new balls please seemingly coming over every other point. Step forward English lawyer and tennis enthusiast John Moyer Heathcote, who suggested balls be covered in flannel to stop them from degrading. And thus the modern-day tennis ball was born. But these were white or black, so how did they become yellow? Well, in 1967, the controller of BBC Two, one Sir David Attenborough, decided the corporation should show Wimbledon on colour TV. He got his wish and it was wide into people's homes across the country. The only sticking point, the white balls were nearly impossible to see on the screen. So the International Tennis Federation, sensing an opportunity, started developing a new ball that would be visible even without the need for 4K LED displays. Not that anyone had that in the late 60s. After rigorous testing, they came up with the colour optic yellow and decided every ball be coated in that colour from there on in. And there you have it. Tennis balls are yellow, all because Sir David Attenborough wanted to watch Wimbledon from the comfort of his own front room. You could say the ITF aced it.
Good morning, you're listening to the Early Sports Breakfast with Adrian Flux. Insurance for the individual. Find out more at adrianflux.co.uk. Thank you for being with us this morning. A difficult morning in the football world. I'm Max Scott, with you for the next hour at a talkSPORT Breakfast with Alan Brazil and Ray Parlour as we continue to pay tribute to Liverpool striker Diogo Jota following his tragic death at the age of just 28 in a car accident yesterday morning, along with his brother Andre Silva. This is the Early Sports Breakfast on talkSPORT. Look, it goes without saying, this is an incredibly difficult period. It's incredibly difficult to put into words or just articulate such a tragedy and a loss like this, but rightly so. All football tribalism has been put aside and the footballing world is united to share in the mourning of someone who wasn't only just a top player, but someone who by all accounts was an absolutely top bloke as well. He's rightly been described as a humble superstar, someone who wasn't flashy, didn't seek the plaudits, an absolute unsung hero. And sat across from me is my producer Sam. This story, Diogo Jota is across all of the back pages, right?
Yeah, of course. And, it's the kind of morning, Max, isn't it, that no football fan, no person ever wants to have to experience, have to be broadcasting through. But it's the very nature of it, unfortunately. And it's the saddest story, really, because it's a complete bolt from the blue. It's not something that you as a journalist or as a broadcaster or as someone in the media you can prepare for.
Yeah.
Somebody so young, somebody so talented at the peak of their powers, and as you say, the paper's all reflecting the tragic nature of the story. Heartbroken. Back page of the Mirror this morning. Jurgen Klopp and Cristiano Ronaldo leading the tributes. Ronaldo, It doesn't make sense, is another story. Back page of The Sun, You'll Never Walk Alone. Arne Slot paying tribute to Diogo Jota as well. And Day, Football United in devastation and disbelief. Back page of The Times. And of course, the nature of the story means it's also transcended the back pages and made the front pages as well. He only got married about 11 days ago. And it's just an awful loss. And really, it's the whole talkSPORT room, the newsroom and the talkSPORT floor, all in shock yesterday. You don't see it very often, when that happens, but everyone was sort of speechless. It's difficult to find the right words to really reflect how we're all feeling about it.
Yeah, it properly took the wind out of everybody's sails, and I know that people listening will feel the same. But just coming into the office yesterday, into the newsroom, it was incredibly sobering. And as you say, it's a story that transcends the back pages. It's the front page of the Sun. Football has lost a champion, which is appropriate considering, the final 2 games of Diogo Jota's life, which was obviously cut tragically short. He's won the Premier League with Liverpool, and then of course the Nations League with Portugal. And then on the back page again goes to Ronaldo, saying it doesn't make sense. Ronaldo articulating, I think, the feeling for many football fans or anybody that's been through any tragedy. Sometimes it hits you when you don't expect it. And here we are talking about this tragic story the next morning. I mean, every single back page, football mourns Jota, Day Football United in devastation. Look, this is just something that we want to talk about because we want to honour his life. But there's only so many things, there's only so many words that can go to articulating or describing just what a loss it is, right?
Yeah, of course. And, the talkSPORT world has paid tribute to Jota yesterday, presenters and pundits and also fans, of course, and we'll hear a selection of those shortly. But I think that it's the thing with this situation. It is obviously a very popular player, a player that everybody had a bit of a fondness for. I think the kind of player that every team would want in their, every football fan would want in their team, because there's a terrific player with a real great work ethic and also his ability to score goals, which every team absolutely craves, don't they, as well? A really, really talented player, but most importantly of all, also a son and a father, and a husband. And that is the stark reality of it all, really, isn't it? Is that we all look at players as footballers first and foremost, but there's much more to it than that. There's the real personal circumstances around an individual, and that is very important to remember at times like these as well.
I think back page of The Guardian, Barney Rowe, I think captures what we at talkSPORT want to try to capture as well. He says the senseless death will not stop the celebration of a rich and talented life. And as I say, that's what we really want to try to do this morning, is to celebrate the life, not just only of a wonderful footballer, but what is clearly a wonderful man. And I guess, like you say, in this sort of celebrity world of football where we see these players as heroes and sometimes see these players as commodities, what often gets lost is the type of person that they are. And what is coming through massively in all of these tributes is that Diogo Jota was a top man, and it goes without saying that everybody at talkSPORT sends our condolences to the family at this extremely difficult time. As I say, it's difficult to put into words, particularly considering, like you said, Sam, a father and a mother have lost their 2 sons, a newlywed wife has lost her childhood sweetheart, and 3 lovely young children have lost their father. But you listeners and people from across the football world came onto talkSPORT yesterday to articulate just how much he meant to you.
Diogo Jota puts them in front. It's the first goal of the Arne Slot era.
Heartbreaking. I was shocked, like all of us.
You do become attached to players. You do feel like, they're part of you.
Everyone knows what it's like to lose someone. It feels like we've lost one of our own.
These players mean something to people, and they become icons, and to see his life cut so short it's just horrible.
One of the reasons why Liverpool wanted to bring him from Wolves, because they knew he was a good character.
Surely now Wolverhampton Wanderers are going through to the semi-final. A counter-attacking goal from Diogo Jota.
Without a doubt, that's my greatest memory, and he was the one who gave me that memory. So
he was one of the greatest players that I've seen play for Wolves.
I had the pleasure a few times being around the training ground, talking to him, listening about his career, how he was, and he's just really, really humble. The Wolves fans loved him.
Someone I've had the opportunity of meeting twice, so kind, had time for everyone. He was a really good human being.
The public, of the Prime Minister, everybody in Portugal is really, really shocked and devastated for what had happened.
His song was one of the ones that was sung the loudest and the longest every week on the Cop.
There'll come a time when Liverpool return to Anfield and the fans sing You'll Never Walk Alone, and they will sing it for him.
He was our number 20, and we won our 20th league title this year. It's been mentioned, but I implore the club to retire that shirt. I think it'd be the right thing to do. and I know, I'm sure the club will do it.
You'll never walk alone. You're always in our hearts. Never forget you. Never forget.
Presenters and pundits and listeners have all been paying tribute to Jota and his brother. Former Liverpool midfielder Danny Murphy says he was a credit to the shirt.
Well, he will get a wonderful send-off, probably on the opening game. Hopefully his family will be there to see how loved and appreciated he was, because he will be remembered really fondly, because he's created some magic moments in the memories of those Liverpool fans. I mean, everyone will remember him differently, depending what games you were at or how you remember, which goal you remember. And I think for the players, just mentioning that briefly, you two have played, you understand, you create real bonds with those players you've been with at the club a long time. Not with everyone, but the majority of you go through those emotions, those roller coasters together, winning things, losing finals. There's going to be some help needed for those individual boys who were really close to him, of course, and his Portuguese teammates. Let's not forget them. So I'm sure the club will be very aware of supporting the players as well. You know, it won't just be a simple case of a send-off. There's going to be... We just don't know how it's going to affect certain members of the team. But it's kind of right now, the football side of it, I find it difficult to comprehend the conversation around that, because it's just not important right now.
Arne Slot posted a statement last night saying, "My first thoughts are not those of a football manager. They are of a father, a son, a brother and an uncle. And they belong to the family of Diogo and Andre Silva, who have experienced such an unimaginable loss. My message to them is very clear. You will never walk alone. The players, the staff, the supporters of Liverpool Football Club are all with you. And from what I've seen today, the same can be said of the wider family of football." And that was certainly clear in the tributes that we saw pouring in yesterday. talkSPORT presenter Adrian Durham said Jota was a player respected by the whole football community.
The way I would describe it is that you've been saying that you didn't know him personally. We didn't know him. But, we did know him because he's been on our radios. He's been on talkSPORT. He was on Match of the Day regularly. He played for the champions. He was a big part of Liverpool's title-winning campaign last season. This was a footballer who's been in and around the Premier League for a long time now. So he was part of our football family. He was part of our football weekend. He was part of our football season. And actually, he's one of those players nobody disliked. No. There was nobody had anything bad to say about Diogo Jota. Nobody grudged him that winner against Everton. There was a question mark about offside, but you're thinking, hang on a minute, have a look what Diogo Jota did for that goal. Sensational. So in many ways, we did know him, and I believe that strongly.
Jota also started for Wolves during his career, of course, before moving to Liverpool. And former Wolves keeper Matt Murray said Jota was a terrific role model.
The team that knew no Bill, a big thing he wanted from that team was to stay humble. And this is a guy that came to Wolves from Atletico Madrid. He'd gone from Champions League football to the Championship. And it was when the Mendes era just started. And it was like, how have we got this guy? And I can just remember him, how he carried the ball. And I'm sure Stuart and Martin will say that he wasn't the biggest of guys, but he was strong. He was so good in the air, and he never gave defenders a rest, the way he carried the ball. So he was really hard for defenders to play against. He was brilliant in Championship, then transitioned into Premier League, then was sold to a big profit. But as I say, the way he came over, he just, he's got all these people screaming for him, and he came and he took that time. And that's what I think people give modern day footballers. They say, they're not in touch with the fans. He really was a fantastic human being, and that's why I just looked at that photo. And my little boy, when he hears about it, will be gutted, because he was like, he's come and spoken to me, and he watched him on the telly, and truly gutted. But what he did for Wolves fans will always remember that.
Yeah, look, as expected, tributes from fans continuing to pour in. We've got a lovely message from Sammy. He says, "Good morning, Max. Liverpool have been through some tough times as a city. Not only the football world is mourning, but can't imagine what Liverpool as a football community are going through. Take care, everyone, of each other at this time. R.I.P. Diogo and Andre." That's Sammy, the Manchester United fan. And actually, here's a Wolves fan, Stephen, who had first-hand experience of Diogo after fitting his blinds, as he told Andy and Benty on Drive.
I get this phone call from this number, and it sounds like a man talking like foreign to me, like in English. And I thought it was one of my friends taking the mickey. So I just cut him. I said, "Come on, who is it?" He said, No, it's Diogo Jota. And I just cut him off. And my son's in the car, and my son's laughing. He said, "Who's that?" Then I said, I don't know. So next thing, the phone goes again, and he went, please don't do that. Please. And I said, do what? He says, cut me off. He said, everybody cuts me off. And then I said, who is it really? And he said, no, it's Diogo Jota. And he says, you the blinds, somebody's told me, pass me your number on. And I went, oh, I'm really sorry. And I was like, really felt like, oh my God, what have I done? Because I'm a season ticket holder, and I have been for years and years.
Dear.
So I planned to meet him at his house. I went round his house and measured up, and I measured up in 10 minutes. I was a bit nervous about going round his house because I'm meeting like a Wolves star, in my opinion. He said, while you're here, can you measure these? He said, but I'm not guaranteeing you get this job because it's coming up the transfer window. And then he phoned me up and he went, cancel that job. He said, I won't be here. And I was going, oh, who are you going to? Where are you being sold to? And he said, I can't say. And then that was it.
Wow. Great story that is.
Yeah, absolutely top story from Stephen, the Wolves fan. Dan, the Spurs fan, has just messaged in saying it doesn't matter who you support right now. We're all united to pay tribute to Diogo and his brother, and we will all never walk alone. Fantastic words there from Dan. Do keep your texts coming in. 03717223344 on WhatsApp, 81089 on messages. And we'll continue to pay tribute to Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva, who tragically died in that car accident in Spain yesterday. Coming up next, we'll continue to reflect on the coverage in the morning papers. This is Early Breakfast with Adrian Flux. Get a tailor-made quote for your commercial vehicle. Search Adrian Flux, insurance for the individual. I'm your host, Max Scott. Alan Brazil and Ray Parler are on the way from 6. Remember, download the talkSPORT app to find all of our stations, including talkSPORT, talkSPORT 2, Talk Times and Virgin. And you can listen again to our shows and best interviews there too. We are rightly going to be continuing to honour the life and pay tribute to Diogo Jota. But here are some of your other sporting headlines this morning. England's cricketers will need a huge turnaround in fortunes if they're going to get back into the second test against India. They're going to day 3 trailing by 510 runs. At Edgbaston, England's top order batters were quickly dismissed before Joe Root and Harry Brook helped them rally and will resume on 77 for 3. I can't help but think we need a captain's knock from Ben Stokes after Shubman Gill got, I think, 269 yesterday. What a knock from him. Of course, we'll have updates for you throughout the day on talkSPORT. Lando Norris will be looking to build on his victory in Austria when practice gets underway for his home British F1 Grand Prix this afternoon. The McLaren driver's second in the standings, 2 places ahead of George Russell of Mercedes going into this weekend at Silverstone. And Jack Draper says his defeat in the second round at Wimbledon hurts. The British number 1 suffered a shock exit to 2014 US Open champion Marin Cilic after losing in 4 sets. Novak Djokovic's straight sets victory eliminated another home player, Dan Evans, while Jack Pennington-Jones and Arthur Ferry's campaigns also came to an end. For more on all of these stories, visit talksport.com. But time now to look at the back pages with Sam.
Yes, hello Max, and as you would expect, all of the coverage is around Diogo Jota, and plenty of thoughtful, thought-provoking comment with a lot of the senior writers in the papers this morning. As you might expect, you mentioned earlier Barney Ronay's piece in The Guardian, senseless death will not stop celebration of a rich and talented life. Oliver Holt also writing in the Mail, the terrible tragedy of a life cut short, of a father taken away from 3 young children, of a husband killed days after his wedding to his childhood sweetheart, of a champion torn away from his teammates, stunned Liverpool Football Club yesterday. And a nice piece from Andy Dunn in the Mirror this morning as well, effectively saying there are no words for the depth of awfulness and sorrow, only thoughts for his family whose grief is unimaginable, and a subsequent reaction is to consider how Jota's passing, the passing of an elite player in the absolute prime of his career and his life, puts a lot of things into perspective, particularly football, and rightly so. We mentioned this earlier, actually. We loosely talk about players, fans and managers being devastated by a loss on a football pitch, and at times like this, we might re-examine our language, again, rightly so. The tragedy of Jota's passing really does put football and the extreme emotions that go with it into perspective, but for those of us who did not know Jota as a person, football defined him. We cannot remember Jota as a friend, we can only remember him as a footballer. It almost seems worthless talking about his talent on a football field, but it is how most of us will remember him. I think that's just nice words.
Yeah, it's a really nice point. I think one of the things that comes to mind is just this idea that when we watch football, we invest so much of our lives into our football teams.
Yeah.
And this is true for every football fan. And as a result, and I know I can think of players in this similar vein, is that they do become an extension of your family in a strange way, because often you don't really go to football on your own. You go with your closest friends and your closest family members. For me, I go with my dad. And as a result, these players that create so many memories, of which Diogo Jota has, he was one of those sort of clutch players who always seemed to score massive, important goals. Yeah. Of course, there's this mystique because you don't really know them unless you're a journalist who has the pleasure of interviewing them. And they do become part of an extension of your family. And that's why we see such an outpouring of love. And that's why, non-Liverpool fans are equally as distraught, because there's just something within you that knows how much it means, how much these players mean. And so, in a sense, he's right there, the author of that piece. Just talk about them as a football player feels like it doesn't do enough. But ultimately, no words can really articulate how awful it is. I mean, we've just had another message, no name to this, but thank you, Diogo, for everything you did for Liverpool Football Club. Such a sad loss. May you and Andre rest in peace. You'll never be forgotten. Our number 20. In fact, that's Sean from Long Eaton. And again, just more touching messages coming through. Please do keep your messages coming in. 03717 22 3344 81089.
And I think you make a good point there, Max, because, although we do see them as an extension of our family, I think we forget about the families behind the players themselves. Because oftentimes we'll watch them on the field and we'll think, you see them just as these great footballers, and you spend realistically in your lives so many hours with these people in your living rooms or in the stadiums with them, and you kind of live vicariously through them a lot of the time, and the performances they put in that you'd never be able to achieve, in your wildest dreams. And when they score a goal for your team, it's like you scoring a goal for your team, isn't it? In some ways, it's sort of what you'd love to achieve as a combination of your life in some ways, or one's life. I don't just mean you, but you in Forest's case, it'll be you. But it's easy to overlook the fact that actually there's a whole lot more going on behind the scenes. There's everybody faces their own challenges, everybody faces their own personal lives, personal situations, family situations that we can't possibly know about. And of course, clubs for the most part do an excellent job of keeping those things under wraps because it's nobody's business to know about them. But it is very easy just to associate them as footballers and almost automatons going about their business in their work, and not think about the fact that they're actually just normal humans like you and I behind the scenes. There's nothing more or less about them than that, apart from the fact they just happen to be very talented footballers. And I think that's the case here, isn't it, with Diogo Jota, who's obviously well loved in all forms, loved as a footballer by football fans, and the fact that you've seen, as you say, an outpouring of love from fans of not just Liverpool but many other clubs as well, including my own club, Man United, Forest as well, and Everton fans I saw paying tribute yesterday and leaving flowers and things like that.
And you would expect nothing less, of course, of Everton fans.
Absolutely.
There's sort of behind that rivalry, there's a deep respect and sort of sense of unity within the city of Liverpool, and
the tribalism's parked, isn't it, at times like these?
Absolutely, as it rightly should be.
Yes.
And it's refreshing to see that, but obviously we'd hope that we wouldn't have to see it in the first place. I think something that struck me was one of the first things that came to mind. One of the first tributes that I saw was from Ruben Neves, obviously former Wolves teammate, Portugal compatriot, and he said, along the lines of, they say we only lose people when we forget them. I will never forget you. And I guess the sentiment there being that and anybody that's lost anybody close to them will know that the only silver lining that you can take from a situation like this is the idea that the person does live on in your collective memory. And there's one thing that is for absolute sure, and it's the people of Liverpool and Liverpool Football Club will make sure that Diogo Jota and his brother and his family are remembered forever and are honoured in the right way. There's lots of conversations, isn't there, and understandably so, about whether the number 20 shirt will be retired, and and we can discuss that. But ultimately, I'm sure that whatever Liverpool decide to do will be the right thing, and you just know for goddamn sure that on that first day of the season and for the years to come, Diogo Jota will be remembered fittingly.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Liverpool are expert at handling these kind of tragic situations, and they will do a magnificent job, I'm sure. Just wanted to finish here by reading this Instagram post that Andy Robertson put up yesterday, if you don't mind.
No, go for it.
Because he summed it up absolutely beautifully on his words on Instagram to his friend. He said, the ones I'm thinking about most right now are the family. Their loss is too much to bear. I'm so sorry they've lost two such precious souls, Diogo and Andre. For the team and the club, we'll try to cope with this together, however long that takes. For me, I want to talk about my mate, my buddy, the bloke I loved and will miss like crazy. I could talk about him as a player for hours, but none of that feels like it matters right now. It's the man, the person. He was such a good guy, the best, so genuine, just normal and real, full of love for the people he cared about, full of fun. He was the most British foreign player I've ever met. We used to joke like he was really Irish. I tried to claim him as Scottish, obviously. I even called him Diogo Mac Jota. We'd watch the darts together, enjoy horse racing. Going to Cheltenham this season was a highlight, one of the best we had. The last time I saw him was the happiest day of his life, his wedding day. I want to remember his never-ceasing smile from that magical day, how he was bursting with love for his wife and family. I can't believe we're saying goodbye. It's too soon and it hurts so much, but thank you for being in my life, mate, and for making it better. Love you, Diogo.
Yeah, brilliant words. I don't think I could have put it any better or read any better.
Beautifully said.
Absolutely. Well done, Andy Robertson. This is Early Breakfast on talkSPORT. Up next, we're going to look back on last night's action in the Women's Euros.
Football fans all have stadiums we love, but do any of us have a pitch we love? It might sound like an odd question, but pitches can be different sizes with big consequences. Why is that? And what are the actual rules behind it? Back when association football started, pitches could be 100 metres wide and 200 metres long. That's longer than Ellen Road. Not the pitch, the stadium. Anyway, UEFA wanted a standard across Europe which became 105 metres long and 68 metres wide. But some clubs had been rebels, not intentionally but because of the stadiums. Take Highbury for example. It was 5 metres shorter and a metre narrower, meaning away sides had a challenge just to adjust. Today, Forest Pitch at the City Ground is a big one, 2 metres wider than others. But the smallest of all? Craven Cottage, just 100 metres long and 65 metres wide. There are a couple of crazy outliers in Europe too, such as Napoli's home ground, the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona, where the pitch is a whopping 110 metres long. So UEFA have their standards, so do the FA, but they give pitches in England some wiggle room. Pitches can be anywhere between 90 and 120 metres long, between 45 and 90 metres wide. Just imagine a pitch that's 120 metres long and 45 wide. Madness. So there you have it. There is a standard size and most teams do generally follow it. But as we all know, size doesn't matter, does it?
This is Early Breakfast with Adrian Flux, the cover you need at a price you'll love with What Van's Insurer of the Year 2021. Find out more at adrianflux.co.uk. Don't forget you can watch the show on all talkSPORT shows on your smart TV. I'm Max Scott, taking you through until 6 when Alan Brazil and Ray Parler will keep you going through breakfast till 10. Some of the headlines you're waking up to this morning away from Diogo Jota, we're going to get back to in a moment. Some fantastic tributes coming in on the text. Keep those coming in. 03717 223344 810 89. But elsewhere, Chelsea go for a place in the semi-finals of the Club World Cup overnight. Enzo Maresca's team take on Palmeiras of Brazil in Philadelphia. The game will be live for you on talkSPORT at 2 a.m. The winner will face either Fluminense or Al Hilal, who play in the last 8 tonight. Denmark boss Andre Jeglerts will take over as head coach of Women's Super League side Manchester City after Euro 2025. The Swedes signed a deal running until 2029. And of course, a moment of silence was observed before Portugal's 5-0 thrashing by world champions Spain in their Women's Euros opener in memory of Diogo Jota. Also in Group B, Italy were 1-0 winners over Belgium. Today, there are 2 games in Group C, Denmark versus Sweden and Germany versus Poland. And of course, for more on all the day's biggest story, visit talksport.com. Right, it's competition time. The reunion of the century is just around the corner and we're giving you a chance to win a pair of Oasis tickets in Manchester on July 19th. Yes, you heard that right. Oasis Live 25 is sold out. I couldn't get any tickets at all, but talkSPORT can get you in. But that's not all. Alongside the tickets, we'll put you up for a night in a hotel and put $5,000 in your back pocket, completely tax-free. Listen up right now for everything you need to know and how to enter.
On iArcade, you have to be over 18 to enter in the UK, excluding Northern Ireland, for the chance to win a pair of tickets to the most electrifying rock and roll reunion of the century, a hotel stay and $5,000 spending money. Text the word Oasis to 83338 by Monday the 7th of July at 11 p.m. and you'll be entered into the draw to go supersonic this summer. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 2 8GP to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's at talksport.com. Good luck, yeah? Sorted.
Right, let's get back to our main story. The news that genuinely shook the football world, shook the entire world. Liverpool striker Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva tragically passed away in a car accident in the early hours yesterday. Let's get some more tributes now from fans who called it through into talkSPORT yesterday.
It was quite a thing. He was our number 20. And we won our 20th league title this year. It's been mentioned, but I implore the club to retire that shirt. I think it'd be the right thing to do. And I'm sure the club will do it.
We've had our ups and downs at Wolves over the years, but Jota, without a doubt, gave me my greatest ever memory as a Wolves fan.
Such a role model to all kids out there, and rest in peace, brother. The LFC family will truly miss you.
Someone I had the opportunity of meeting twice. He was so humble, so kind, had time for everyone. He was a really good human being.
My grandson, Lewis, actually interviewed Jota, and he said what a charming young man he was.
I measured up his windows, him and his girlfriend at the time, which took me about 10 minutes. And then I must have been there talking football about an hour and a half about the Wolves, and he was telling me stories about Nuno, and his girlfriend took loads of photographs with me and him together. So I did say to his girlfriend, I said, I'm really sorry. I said, because I'm just taking up so much of your time. She said, no, it's okay. She's used to it.
His wife, man, his 3 kids, and his parents that also lost his brother. It's devastating.
Good, kind people are taken early. I feel so sorry for his wife and children. They'll never see him again. It's absolutely tragic. He'll never be forgotten at Molineux, never.
And you have the bonds, don't you, as fans? You have the bonds. You think you know the players. And
You'll never walk alone. You're always in our hearts. Never forget you. Never forget.
Yeah, those stunning, fantastic tributes continue to come in onto talkSPORT. Carlin Margate says it doesn't matter who you support at a time like this, we all come together as one, as a collective, and mourn a tragic loss. My heart goes out to his family, wife, children, and that of his brothers too, and also to everybody that wears a red shirt. Kate in Bolton says, good morning. Today football isn't more important than life and death, as the old saying goes. As a United fan, I haven't liked Liverpool. It's not the done thing, but I felt terribly sad since the news of Diogo came through. Rest in peace. You will be missed. Sam's back in the studio with me. Sam, you've got some of the fantastic tributes that were doing the rounds on social media yesterday.
Yeah, we ought to start with Jurgen Klopp, hadn't we, as somebody who worked with Jota for so long. And
brought him to the club.
Absolutely, yeah. And he said he was heartbroken by the death of a great friend. He wrote on social media, "This is a moment where I struggle. There must be a bigger purpose, but I can't see it." And of course, those two had some fantastic times together, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Klopp and
yeah.
Jota. Other great tributes have come in. The Prince and Princess of Wales, as part of the footballing family. This is all on social media, by the way. As part of the footballing family, I am deeply saddened to hear of the passing of Diogo Jota and his brother. Our thoughts are with his family, friends and all who knew him. Trent Alexander-Arnold also tweeted, "It's so difficult to find the right words when your head and heart are struggling to accept that someone you care so much about has gone." Jamie Carragher, devastating news about Diogo Jota and his brother Andre this morning. Thoughts are with everyone of their family and friends, especially his wife Ruta and their 3 lovely kids. Wolves, who put some lovely tributes out yesterday, didn't they? Wolves and their fans were wonderful as well. Our hearts go, great club Wolves, of course. Our hearts go out to the family, friends and loved ones of Diogo and his brother Andre. You'll be truly missed and always remembered. And Jude Bellingham as well. Heartbreaking news. Rest in peace, Andre and Diogo. Sending love and strength to the family. Max, just want to ask you, there's a lot of talk in the paper this morning about the number 20 shirt. Of course, the 20th title. He wore number 20. Do you feel comfortable with the idea that Liverpool might retire the shirt? Do you think it's a fitting tribute?
Totally, mate. You know, retiring shirt numbers isn't a convention that we follow really in football. It's something that you see particularly in American sports. Yeah. You know, in the NBA, certain numbers will be up in the rafters in order to honour great players. And whilst it's not something we would do in football, and it's an unusual thing to do in football, we saw it, Birmingham retiring Jude Bellingham's number, and at the time people were thinking, what on earth is this about? And now it makes a little bit more sense. The money he generated for the club at an awful time. But it might be an unusual thing in football, but this is a tragically unusual thing to happen for a player in his prime at one of the best teams in the world, won their 20th title. That is unusual. And so I think that it deserves a fitting tribute like that. I would certainly have no problem. But like I said at the top of the show, there's one thing for sure, is that the Liverpool football community and Liverpool Football Club, who sadly have experienced tragedy in the past, that they know how to get round each other. They know how to galvanise the community, and they know how to honour people that need it. And so I'm sure whatever they decide to do will be the right thing.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And I do feel like in this case that Liverpool obviously is such a gargantuan football club and brand around the world, but you do feel like if they were to take the decision to retire the shirt, you could understand it, because Liverpool's all about legacy. It's all about history. It's all about marking those who've gone before as well as those who come later. So I think that they could justify that decision quite easily, and I think you could see it being quite a fitting tribute. But of course, as you say, whatever they do, no doubt they'll do the right thing.
Yeah.
There's lots of extra pieces about the joyful nature of his wedding as well, which was only less than a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it, for Diogo and his 3 beautiful children, who are also pictured in the paper this morning, and his lovely wife. I mean, it's absolutely heartbreaking to see those pictures. Everyone is heartbroken. It sort of puts a lump in your throat even looking at them, really. But I suppose the only thing you can say is, he had such a wonderful celebration, didn't he? At that time, he's brought 3 beautiful children into the world. I mean, he's
your heart breaks just thinking about, he's got a really young daughter, and may not even be old enough to have memories of her father. But one thing I will say is what I liked about Jota as a player was he was the sort of player you never wanted to play against.
Oh, for sure.
As the cliche goes, but you would love him on your side. And the way he played the game, Alexis McAllister in his tribute, he said so many nice things about him, and he listed off things he remembered about him: his compassion, his humour, his kindness. But he also said his anger. He was competitive, he was a diminutive player, but boy, could he get up for a header. Boy, did he get stuck in. And one of the things that it just makes me think of is that, his children will be able to watch the way that he plays and see the man that he was. And I think that there's something to say about, there are certain players that their character comes through in the way they play. And we could list them off, and I don't want to detract from Jota, but I think that that's one thing that can be said, that the way he played the game, despite the fact that he, like I say, he was a small guy, boy, did defenders know he was there.
I think that's a great point, because actually, he felt like he left it all out there, didn't he? Whenever he was playing, he wasn't somebody who ever thought was phoning it in, or wasn't interested, or was not engaged, or wasn't really giving it everything for himself, for his teammates, and for the fans. And that is a real credit to him, and that is something that he can be immensely proud of.
Yeah, like in a world of sort of prima donnas, of divas, and where we look at the wages and we look at sometimes the lifestyle, and that can be something that, frustrates the standard match-going fan, those of us that pay our hard-earned money to go and watch these players sometimes not give their everything. That could never be said about this man. It can never be said about Diogo Jota.
No, very much so. And next up, we will talk a bit more about him and our experiences of him as a player, won't we? Because first and foremost, he was an exceptional player, an exceptional goal scorer, wasn't he?
Bagsman.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will we'll talk a bit more about that very shortly as well. But that's a bit of a reflection of what the front pages and the back pages are saying this morning.
Brilliant stuff. So Sam says we're going to continue to remember Diogo Jota. We'll talk through some of our favourite memories of him. But also up next, we're going to look ahead as well to the Lions.
plays that villain role very well now. That's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
This is Early Breakfast on talkSPORT. I'm Max Scott. Alan and Ray are on the way for talkSPORT Breakfast at 6 a.m. Of course, they're going to be continuing the tributes to Diogo Jota. We're getting more and more texts coming through. Darren, the Spurs fan, says, I saw Jota at White Hart Lane against my Spurs. He signed my niece's top. She said to him, I'm not a Liverpool fan, but he was her favourite non-Spurs player. He said, it's okay, I'll sign you top. She was so happy. I thought, what a legend. What a gentleman. I mean, it just keeps coming through, doesn't it, Sam? The sort of the measure of the man. Just in terms of him as a player, have you got any sort of favourite memories of him?
Outstanding player and scored seemingly important goal after important goal for Liverpool. Didn't he have for Wolves, to be fair? But the one that sticks out, honestly, is that rather crazy game against Spurs a couple of years ago, 2023 I think it was, back end of the season. Liverpool went 3-0 up really early. I think it was the week after Spurs had been absolutely pumped by Newcastle. Remember that game where they got conceded 5 in about the first 20 minutes? I think it might have been the following week. And they went 3-0 up really early, Liverpool. Spurs somehow came back, scored a 93rd minute equaliser, and then Spurs being Spursy. But I think it was Lucas Moura gave the ball away, and Jota then attached himself, got on the end of it, slots it into the corner. Celebrates really nonchalant, as he tended to do, but such an important goal. You know, Liverpool almost blowing that game. In the end, they end up winning it last minute of the game, last minute of stoppage time. Jota, the calm man under pressure, as he often was, you know, in that situation where it's all a bit frantic around him, and he sort of seems to be the calmest man in the whole stadium, and he just fires it into the corner. Beautiful finish, and a huge game, huge win for Liverpool, and a real standout moment. But that's sort of a bit of a marker for what he was all about, really. He was a really sort of ruthless finisher, wasn't he? And as I say, scored so many important goals, including his last one in the Merseyside derby against Everton. So what about you, Max? You got some thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, but bizarrely for me as a Forest fan, well, I think a moment that spoke to him as a player. It was Forest-Liverpool fairly early in the season. Forest were really up there, and we were sort of asking the question, crikey, could we go and, be in with a title race? Of course, that didn't transpire, but we were 1-0 up. Chris Wood put Forest ahead. I was there at the City Ground. I think it was a Tuesday, Wednesday night. Diogo Jota comes on, and within 22 seconds, his first touch of the game, Liverpool get a corner, and he scores with his first touch of the game. And I just think that, again, that speaks to the sort of type of player he was. I think he could have played in any top club, would have wanted him.
No question. Just sort of no question.
Just because of the work rate and the sort of the spirit that he had,
and his reliability as well.
Absolutely, yeah. If he needed to score, he would be a pretty good option to bring on, wouldn't he? He wasn't always part of that front three, but an integral part of what Klopp and what Arne Slot were doing. Interestingly, I was on the talkSPORT 2 social yesterday, and I was speaking to James Fielden, one of our great commentators, and he's a big Wolves fan, and he was just talking about how many players have won the Championship. So he was promoted with Wolves and then gone and won the Premier League. I mean, you think of that crop of Leicester players that did that. There was a lot of them there. But it's incredibly unusual for a player to do that, particularly a player who'd come from Atletico Madrid. He wasn't, getting much joy there. On loan to the Championship, which is a notoriously difficult league to play in. Just his career trajectory just speaks to the man, and it reflects all of the messages that we're getting through from fans.
Yeah, totally, and you're absolutely right. It's a real marker of the man, and I think you mentioned it there, Max. I mean, any player that can kind of not sulk about being on the bench, but can come on and want to still make a difference. There's obviously a terrific character there, and we're seeing that through the tributes.
And also the humility of a man who is, granted, not playing at Atletico Madrid, to go and play for Wolves in the Championship. That says a lot, and that says a lot to why he was so successful in his career. Now, look, it's worth saying we're almost at 6 o'clock, where Alan Brazil and Ray Parlour will continue to pay tribute to Diogo Jota on talkSPORT Breakfast following Sam and I. Now, we just want to quickly discuss, we do have some live sport for you this weekend, with the Lions back in action live on talkSPORT as they take on the New South Wales Waratahs. And in something of a surprise, Andy Farrell has taken the decision to call up this man.
Elliot Daly looks in a lot more pain. Left forearm up near the elbow. Now this will be a concern.
He's somewhat of a Lions legend in regards to 16 times that he's put the shirt on, 11 consecutive games. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? And 5 caps, could have been 6.
And some breaking news out of the Lions camp. Andy Farrell, the head coach, has called up his son Owen to replace the injured Elliot Daly.
Owen Farrell steps back, now comes into the ball, strikes it right-footed. The Lions fans like it, Owen Farrell likes it. The touch judges like it. The Lions lead for the first time on the evening.
He should be proud of himself, obviously. It's what we do in the here and now that counts, isn't it? So I'm sure that he flies and gets here on late Friday night, so I'm sure he'll be dying to get at it.
Yes, Owen Farrell's been named by his dad as a replacement for utility back Elliot Daly, who's been ruled out after fracturing his arm in Wednesday's win over Queensland Reds. Here's Farrell on the decision to call up his lad.
Look at international games, or we look at club games or whatever, but the person's still the person, and the character's still the character, and the player inside is still the player inside if he's fit and well and ready to fire. And we see all of that, all the hunger that's always been there. So we see him adding to the group and injecting a bit of life and experience as far as what he can bring to the squad.
And former England and Australia head coach Eddie Jones, who of course is part of our star-studded lineup for our exclusive coverage of the Lions Tour Down Under, he says that he can understand the decision to pick Farrell.
Well, I think if you just look at the facts about Owen, he's played over 100 tests. I think he's the second highest point scorer behind Wilkinson, which is not a bad rap. And he's won everything bar a World Cup. So he's a player that's played in winning teams. He's an outstanding competitor. And I think what he'll bring to the Lions is just that little bit more depth to their side. They've got Finn Russell, who's probably going to start at 10, and then the young guy, Finn Smith from England's, a really promising young player, and he's adapting well to the higher level of the game. But Owen will be a pretty handy third-string player. Come on and kick goals at above 80%. He's got a huge competitive spirit.
Don't forget, Lions versus Waratahs is live from 11 a.m. tomorrow morning on talkSPORT. And for all your Lions needs, remember the Lions Uncaged podcast is available from wherever you get your podcast. I listened to that last night with Alfie Reynolds and Topsy Ojo. Absolutely cracking stuff. Right, we're almost at 6 o'clock, where we're going to welcome in Alan Brazil and Ray Parlour. So here's what's coming up on talkSPORT today. Alan and Ray, of course, on talkSPORT Breakfast are going to continue to pay tribute and honour the life of Diogo Jota. Former F1 driver David Coulthard will join the show to look ahead to the British Grand Prix. That's going to be an absolute belter. Nick Kyrgios will look ahead to day 5 at Wimbledon. I'm sure he's going to give some interesting reaction to the shock. News about Jack Draper. He's out of Wimbledon at round 3. While former Scotland and Saracens lock Jim Hamilton will discuss the Lions ahead of their warm-up game with the Waratahs live on talkSPORT. You've been listening to Early Breakfast with Adrian Flux. Insurance for the individual. Find out more at adrianflux.co.uk. I just want to finish off with another lovely text. This is from Mark, the Leeds fan. Diogo Jota, a son, a brother, a husband and a father, taken way too early from this world. The pain and grief his family, friends, teammates and staff and the whole Liverpool fan base is felt and shared by the whole wider football family. Rest in peace, Diogo. Well said there, Mark. Don't go anywhere, because up next it's talkSPORT Breakfast with Alan Brazil and Ray Parlour.